Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to make this awesome looking underwater house. Are you sick to death of living on dry land? I know I am. I'm tired of it. I'm always getting blown up by creepers and cows. It's not even fair. The cows smuggle the TNT in their udders. I'll never see that coming. Well, good news. You don't have to anymore. I have constructed this lovely looking, easy to make underwater house. So there's no need to live on dry land with those evil land creatures anymore. You can just live down in the ocean like me. Well, if you do want to make this, it's going to be a little bit difficult because of course we do have to build this underwater. I built this one on dry land just so that I could show you what it will look like, but in actuality I'm going to be building it right here in this thing, which is essentially a reverse fish tank. This is just off the shore in one of my many worlds. That is my tiki head house over there, and I'm going to be building in here. Obviously I fully expect that you guys will want to build this in the ocean, in the actual water, since it is an underwater house. The only tip I have for you there is to use a night vision potion, because that will make things a lot easier to actually see underwater, but other than that, it's going to be quite difficult for you, which is why I have opted to build it here in the reverse fish tank. Now, if you do have any other build requests, feel free to leave them down below there in the comments. I only made this because you guys have been suggesting it like crazy. Also, feel free to check out the card system and the description below. I'll be leaving you links to loads of videos and playlists that I think that you'll really want to check out. I think that you guys, if you like this video, would really love my Biome Builds playlist. Give that one a look. But that's more than enough talking. Why don't we actually discuss what we'll need to make this underwater house? Well, we'll need some cyan stained clay, some sea lanterns, we'll need light grey wool, white stained glass, polished andesite, stone slabs, cobblestone wall, oak planks, and some ladders. Plus, we'll need some other things as well. We have them right here, including more sea lanterns. I don't know why, maybe I was worried that I'd run out of them. But we may even need more than this, it kinda depends. So, once you have each one of those materials, and maybe even the ones in the inventory, and once you've figured out where you want to make it, I'm sure that you have a lot of places, because of course the ocean is big, well, I'm going to be very careful, and I'm going to start my build off right here. Well, you're going to want to kick off your build with this, and it's best to look down at the ground as we build this. So we'll start off with a cyan stained clay, like this. We then, from that cyan stained clay, want to do 3 up left diagonals. So you're like looking at the ground and you want to do 1, 2, 3, like that. You then want to go up by 1 with your sea lantern, 1 cyan stained clay, 1 sea lantern, 1 clay, 1 sea lantern, 1 clay, 1 sea lantern, 1 clay. So you'll have 4 lanterns in total. You then, continuing on from where we left off, want to do 3 upright diagonals with your cyan stained clay. That's 1, 2, 3. Then go right to that 3rd upright diagonal by 1 with the sea lantern, 1 clay, 1 sea lantern, 1 clay, 1 sea lantern, 1 clay, 1 sea lantern, 1 clay. And once again, you want to have 4 lanterns in that row. You then, from that last clay you place, want to do 3 bottom right diagonals with your clay. That's 1, 2, and 3, like that. You then want to go down by 1 with your sea lantern, then 1 clay, then 1 sea lantern. We now want to go right, and we want to go right by 3 with your white stained glass block. So that'll look like 1, 2, 3. We then want to do an upright diagonal, or 3, with your cyan stained clay. That'll look like 1, 2, and 3. Then go right by 1 with your sea lantern, 1 clay, 1 sea lantern, 1 clay. So that's a very easy row. You can see that we only have 2 sea lanterns in it. We then want to do 2 bottom right diagonals with the clay. That's 1 and 2. We then want to go down by 1 lantern, 1 clay, 1 lantern, 1 clay. Like that. Again, very simple row. Then do 2 bottom left diagonals, 1, 2. Then go left by 1 with the lantern, 1 clay, 1 lantern, 1 clay. Like that. We then want to do 2 up left diagonals with your clay, 1, 2. We then want to do an up left diagonal with the glass. Go left of that glass by 2, 1, 2. Then continue going left by 1 with your sea lantern. Go down by 1 with your clay, 1 sea lantern, 1 clay. Then do 3 bottom left diagonals with your clay, that's 1, 2, 3. Go left by 1 sea lantern, 1 clay, 1 sea lantern, 1 clay, 1 sea lantern, 1 clay, one sea lantern. So you'll end up with something that should, on the floor, look exactly like this. And I could have stood to have made the house a little bit more to the right, but oh well, it doesn't really matter. You guys can still see how this thing's supposed to look. Well, once you've got that taken care of, this is what you're going to do next. So we want to take out our white stained glass, and we'll take care of the harder part first. So we want to, for this larger dome shape, we want to do a layer of glass that is one row inwards and one row higher than the layer of cyan stained clay / sea lantern. So we just want to trace all the way along the inside of the shape that is one row higher and one row inside of your layer of sea lanterns and clay. And this is going to help form the dome shape that we love. We have one layer of glass. Well, we want to add, once you have that first layer, another layer of glass directly on top of it. And we don't have to do too much of this, guys, don't worry. This is a pretty small dome, so after we've done this, we'll already begin downsizing. So we want to have something which should look a little bit like that. That is 2 layers of glass. We then, for the next row, one row above and one row inside of the dome, we want to once again do a layer of glass, except this time, whereas with the previous layer of glass, you did not connect it at the corners. With this layer of glass, you want to connect it at the corners. So you want to go all the way around, you want to make sure that the glass connects at the corners, and you'll end up with a slightly different shape than the one previously. So the first layer of glass, you can see it doesn't connect at the corners at all, the diagonals don't connect, but the second layer of glass does want to in the corners. It's important. Well, once you've got that layer of glass, we want to add just one more layer of glass that once again does connect in the corners. This will be the final layer of glass before we start adding all of the other stuff. So we want to just, like I said, connect it at the corners, add this final layer of glass, and then we'll start adding like the actual like ladders and stuff that you'll be able to access this thing in. So it'll look like this. We then want to take out our cyan stained clay, and this time, you guys guessed it, one row above and one row inside of the glass, you want to add your layer of cyan stained clay, and it does want to connect at the corners. That's very, very important, and it just wants to connect at the corners, as you can see, and we'll end up with a pretty cool looking shape. It's kind of like a plus shape like this. Perfect. Once you've got that done, we now want to take out the light grey wall, and one row above and one row inside of the cyan stained clay, we want a layer of light grey. This does not want to connect at the corners. It wants to form a square shape like this. Perfect. Once you've got that done, we now want to take out the cyan stained clay, and this is tricky. On top of each one of these 4 rows of light grey wall, we want to place a cyan stained clay on top of the centre block of the row, like that. We then want to connect them together diagonally, so essentially we're forming a circular shape with the cyan stained clay. It'll take a second or two to do. It'll give us something which should look like, oh, not quite like that, perfect. Then, once we've got the cyan stained clay, and this is slightly tricky really, because what we now want to do is we want to raise up the cyan stained clay, and we want to raise it up with the glass, and the glass wants to come as high as the water level. So my water level's obviously a little thrown off because I have like the glass there and I have the quartz block, but my water level's about here, so all of my glass wants to come this high, but yours might be different. Your particular underwater house might be built, your underwater house for instance, might be built very, very close to the shore, and therefore it's more than likely that you'll be in a very shallow part of the water, and you won't have to raise up your glass that high, but it's just because mine's planted a little bit further into the ocean, and it is quite deep actually. I didn't expect the water to be this deep. I've got to build a really long tunnel, but it's completely subjective upon whereabouts you actually built your house. I can't really tell you how big to make this. It just wants to come as high as it needs to, if that makes sense, which is all the way up to the water level or slightly below. Because once we have all of the glass, we want to place another layer of cyan stained clay on top of the glass, like this. Then, we want to do a layer of stone slabs in kind of like a plus formation like this. The stone slabs want to look a little bit like that, so you can see that we just have that center hole open. We then want to place ourselves a cyan stained clay right in that center hole, with a cobblestone wall on top of it, with a stone slab on top of it. So it kind of looks like a hatch, like this. What we then want to do is just figure out exactly like where the entrance to this house is going to be. So at the moment it can be in any one of these 4 slab positions. I'm going to make mine right here. This is where the entrance is going to be. So I'm going to knock that out, and underneath the center cyan stained clay, I'm going to run a row of oak planks that comes all the way down like this. And I'm going to have ladders taking us all the way up to the surface in front of the planks. As you guys can see, this might take a second or two to actually place, because of course this is a little bit tricky because I'm in a glass tunnel at the moment. So obviously it's a little bit hard to place, but you guys will have to deal with the same thing no matter what you do. So I'm just going to build all of this up, and obviously it's quite important that this house remain watertight. So do make sure that the actual entrance, the little shaft that we have here, does come up beyond the water like that. Perfect. And that's pretty much like the left-hand side of this house. That's what that should look like. That's the actual container. It's pretty cool, isn't it? I like it a lot. Well, once you've got that left-hand side, the bigger side I might add, you want to come all the way over to the right-hand side, which is this very, very small part of the house. So this is basically just a bedroom, and what we're going to do is we're going to take out the white stained glass again, and on top of the outer shape of this we're going to stack 2 layers of glass. So on top of the cyan stained clay and the actual sea lanterns, we're going to stack 2 layers of glass. So we're not going inwards at all, not yet. We're just stacking the glass directly on top of the shape, like this. And by the way, you can connect it here in the middle on the left-hand side. We then want to do 1 row higher than the top level of glass and 1 row inwards. You want to do a layer of glass that connects at the corners, going all the way around the top. You guys know what I'm talking about. It looks a little something like this. You can already see me working on it. We then want to 1 row higher and 1 row inwards. We want to have basically like a layer of cyan stained clay that does not connect at the corners. So we kind of have like the square shape, or I guess kind of like circular shape. It's kind of both, of cyan stained clay. We then want to place a plus shape of light grey wool inside and above the empty space of the cyan stained clay. So kind of like this, let me show you. You want to have kind of like a plus shape of light grey wool with stone slabs in between the outer edges of your light grey wool. We then want to place in the center of the light grey wool a sea lantern. On top of the sea lantern, a cyan stained clay. On top of that, a cobblestone wall, and on top of that, a sea lantern. And I think that it's just a little bit better than like the hatch thing that we have up there. I think it looks kind of cute. I actually kind of like it. It kind of even looks like a diving helmet, this thing. I really love this. And oh my god, we've even got a happy face inside of it. I couldn't have made that any better. Well, what we now have to do, the last thing that we have to do for the actual house portion, we have to connect the big side of the house to the small side of the house. The way that we'll do that, we'll just run rows of white stained glass, and these rows of white stained glass, they only want to be 2 rows high like this, or 3 in total including the floor like this. And then what we want to do is we want to do a row of stone slabs that runs all the way up the center here, like this. Can you guys see what I'm talking about? Like that? What we can then do, as a matter of fact, we can destroy this top layer of glass on either side, right? And we can do a layer of sea lanterns underneath the stone, as you can see. Let me just destroy these. It might be a bit easier from the inside, but I just want to show this. A layer of sea lanterns. Then we can do a layer of stone slabs either side, so we kind of like reduce the amount of sea lanterns that we can see, which is kind of cool like that. And I'm just going to destroy my way in here just to make it a bit easier. And I'll destroy this sea lantern. I'll make sure that we can actually pass through either side. I had to destroy glass there. And I'll destroy this sea lantern. And we'll see what this looks like from the outside. And of course I can seal this hole up at any point in time. And there we go. Now we have kind of like a cooler walkway between the two. I quite like that. And of course you can add more or less sea lanterns if you like. I mean, again, I'm glad that I didn't seal this up. Like if you want to add more sea lanterns, like you may even want to add like one here and here to match that side. Or not. It really does depend on like how many you want to add. And that just pretty much covers like the actual house portion. So that's how you get in. This is the smaller part. This is where you'd have a bedroom or whatever you want to use this for. I kind of like everything in there and then a bedroom here. I like to keep those two things separate. But that's the house portion. Why don't I tell you what you can do to the outside just to make it a bit easier or a bit more interesting, not easier. And to do this, we're going to need a few more materials than I have. We'll need some brown stained clay and we'll need some lime stained clay. And we'll also need some prismarine blocks, some mossy cobblestone walls, stone brick slabs, we'll need quartz slabs, quartz stairs, magenta stained clay, and some sea lanterns again. And there's just a couple of things that you may want to add to the outside to just make your house a bit more interesting from the inside. So from the inside of the house, you're probably going to be looking at the ocean a lot, and you can't really see that far out there. But if you put a couple of things around in the peripheral, I don't know, you can make it a bit more interesting. So unlike the front right hand side here, I'm kind of going to have, using my prismarine blocks, I'm just going to build like an abandoned, kind of like castle shaped ruin with the prismarine blocks. And you can do the same thing if you like. You can add a bit of mossy cobblestone wall to this thing. I'm just making it look a little bit more interesting than it might have done previously. That's all I'm basically doing here. It doesn't have to be a good looking structure. It doesn't have to look particularly amazing, but it's something different than just looking out into the ocean, and it's a bit more interesting than nothing. In between the two here, I'm just going to add like a kind of like just a regular stone, because why not? We'll just add a bit of a stone here just in between the two. Might make it a bit more interesting than that. There we go, just kind of like a random stone in between the two parts of the house. I'm also going to add a pearl. A clam with a pearl, and I don't have that much room to do this, which is a bit upsetting. But the way that we do it is we do like this shape on the floor with the magenta, and then we do like quartz stairs in front of the front half of this shape, so we have like a T shape with the magenta stained clay. And then we want to have a set of stairs coming off either side of it, and we're not going to even be able to see this very well. And we want to have a back portion to this as well, so we'll place a quartz slab right at the back here. And then we want to have kind of like the same shape coming out of the top. We want to have kind of like this clam shape like this. And then we want to have stairs on either side of this thing as well, like this. And we just want to end up with something that should look, and that wants to look more like a plus shape, that should look a little bit like this, and we can stick like a sea lantern in the center of it, so it kind of looks like a clam with a pearl in it. If you guys can see that, it looks kind of cool. Like, it's a very low effort piece of artwork that you can just throw around. A nice little statue to just kind of like throw around your house, any sort of underwater house. Make sure you cover up the back, of course, with your quartz slabs or whatever it is you may be using. But it's just a bit more interesting than, once again, just looking out onto the ocean and there being nothing. It just looks a bit more interesting, even if it's a bit low effort. And a couple more things that you can add to your house is just some, like, I don't know, some like kelp, some seaweed sort of stuff. Like in the back, we'll start off with a brown stained clay, and then we'll build up just a random natured like plant back here using the clay like this. So we'll just build up like a random natured plant. It's just completely random. We don't have to focus that much on it, and you can see that there we have a plant. That one looks a little bad, I'll admit that. I don't actually like that too much. So we'll just add something like that maybe. And at the back we can add maybe like one here, and we'll extend another one out the back. And you know what, this one, I mean, they don't have to look perfect. I mean, it just has to look like a plant. You can use different colours if you like as well. Like, that's one of them. We'll do another one at the back just for the sake of symmetry, and we'll just extend this one a bit more out, and maybe we'll add like one here, and then we'll add one coming out the back of here as well, and then one here, just because. And there we go, and then we just have like another randomish looking plant. It doesn't have to look that great, because you won't even be able to see it that well once this is actually like filled in with water. So now that we've actually got the structure of the house done, and we've added a couple of cool things to the outside, I'm going to show you what you may want to do to the inside of the house. Plus, I'm also going to sink this house. I'm going to fill all of this in with water. So I'll tell you what, I'll be back once I've sunk this house, once I've filled it in with water, so so we can actually see what this thing looks like, and I'll be back once I've also done the interior. I won't do a tutorial for the interior, but I'll just show you what sort of things you can do, because it's really easy. So what I've done is I've made another version of the underwater house that this time isn't constrained by any sort of giant reverse fish tank. This one is built very, very close to the one that we've just been working on, and it actually took a while to construct. It's a lot harder to build these in the water than it is like a big giant glass tank, but it's not that difficult. You can do it, but it just takes a little bit longer, that's all. So the idea with this house is it's built somewhere just offshore, whether it's on a small island like this or whether it's closer or further away from the mainland. And what I would suggest is having like a glass walkway just underneath the water, kind of like I do here, just to show you. A little glass walkway underneath the water, and this can lead you to your underwater base. You'll know where the walkway is because you should be able to see your base with the sea lanterns anyway. And you'll just have a glass walkway. Mine's kind of far out, and we can hop up here and we can actually climb down into the underwater house, which is now furnished, by the way. So this thing, as you can see, we now have a lot of storage space in the house. We have like, this is like where all of our materials that are relevant to shovels, mining, wood, another wood one which should be a sword one, but you guys get the idea. We have a lot of storage space down here. We have a place to keep our weapons, our armor. We have a nice little place to enchant our things. If we wanted to, we could also add like a crafting table, could add a furnace, we could add a brewing stand, we could have different individual sections here for all of the other things. We don't have to just take up one wall with the bookcase. I just like that aesthetically. And over in this section, this is just a small little bedroom all by itself, and if you wanted to, you could use this for further storage space, or you could use it for like your alchemy, and you could use it for your smelting, and you could use it for your improvements, and maybe even if you wanted to, you could improve this house further. You could add more of these small rooms, and perhaps if you wanted to, you could have a nether room, and you could have all sorts of various things down here. An underwater house is really kind of a cool thing, and I might even build a variation of one of these in the future that's ever so slightly bigger, because I do have some cool ideas for an underwater house. But if you want to furnish yours like this one, I mean, I think that you guys will be able to do it quite easily. That's very, very simple, this bookcase. This storage space is really, really easy. So is this. I kind of like this. It's just kind of like an armor stand, and like you walk up and you collect it. It kind of feels like something Batman would have underwater. And then of course this wall's a bit blank, but if you wanted to, you could have like a furnace station, you could have a crafting table, and of course the bedroom is very, very easy. If you want a good shot of the bed, I mean, there you go. It's comprised of mainly wooden stairs, and there's a little bit of fence obviously, and some slabs. I really like this bed, by the way. I think it's kind of cool, with some like make-do cabinets on the left and right hand side of it. Really cool. But that is the underwater house, guys. I hope that you like this. I really do. And obviously if you want to climb out of this, hang on, let's climb out of this like people, or like spiders, if you will. So obviously, to climb out and get out of your house, this bit would be filled in at the top, but you don't need it to be anyway, and we can just climb out just like normal people. We can hop out, and of course we can just leave as we came in. But if you want to have a better view of what this thing looks like, I mean, if we just want to pop a night vision potion here, we can now quite clearly see what this house looks like, and it does look really, really cool. I really like this quite a lot. I really do love this house. I think it looks absolutely amazing. And obviously, if you want to take any of my designs for the interior and make them your own, or the exterior, then you can. But I would more than suggest just doing what you want to this house. Don't just take my plans if you don't like them. Do what you want with this thing. But I hope that you guys really like this underwater house. I had a lot of fun building this and designing it. Not so much fun building the giant fish tank, which I'm now going to have to find something else to do with now that I have it. But I definitely had a lot of fun designing this house, and I think that it looks really, really cool. Well, if you like this video, guys, please give it a like. I'd really appreciate it. Comment down below what other kinds of houses would you like me to do next. A lot of you guys have been suggesting like cave houses, and a lot of you guys wanted underwater houses and versus sky houses and stuff like that. So you'll just have to let me know what else you want to see in the future. Comment down below, just let me know that. Do the same thing on Twitter at TSMC360. Check out the cards and the description below for some of my other playlists and some of my other individual tutorial videos. I'd highly recommend the Biome Builds playlist. I think that you guys would love that one a lot. And I suppose that's everything, guys. So thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.